Okay, so Coleman Hughes, and I don't know if you guys, I don't know if I've told you this story, but I've told the audience years ago because he's been on the show a bunch of times. This is how I met Coleman. This is how much I love Coleman. I had just been canned from NBC. Technically, I was only let go from the show. What happened after that remains confidential. Okay, but in any event, we'd separated. And everybody was calling me a racist, all the papers and all this, like, because of the Halloween thing. So I go to the Comedy Cellar with Doug, which is a great place to take in comedy here. And saw a great set, had a great time, sat down afterward with Noam, who runs the joint, and Coleman. Coleman was there. I didn't know Coleman. He introduces me. Coleman comes over and he's like, what's happening to you is total bullshit. This is so unfair. And I was like, oh my God. You know, it's like this young black guy who's like, I see what they're doing. Like, you're good. And it was just, it meant so much to me. And a friendship was born. He's been great to me ever since. And I love him too. So he goes on The View, which is great. I love to see him getting his message out there and going on, you know, these other places where that's the audience that needs to hear Coleman's message, right? Like exactly the audience. And he's got a new book out, which I will get the name of so that we can promote it here too. And of course, Coleman's whole thing on the issues of race are more like you, Kmele, like colorblind. Like, stop, I'm not all about my race. Stop making my race so important. Like, what matters is character and values and so on. Well, the ladies of The View didn't much like that, especially Sunny Hostin. Watch.
We should try our very best to treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and our public policy.
Of course.
And the reason I wrote this book, thank you. The reason I wrote this book is because in the past 10 years, it has become very popular to, in the name of anti-racism, teach a kind of philosophy to our children and in general that says your race is everything. Right, and I think that is the wrong way to fight racism.
I don't want to say it's your youth, but I think you have a point, but I think you have to also take into consideration what people have lived through.
The default right now in a lot of areas of policy is to use, you know, black and Hispanic identity as a proxy for disadvantage. And my argument is that you actually get a better picture of who needs help by looking at socioeconomics and income. That picks out people in a more accurate way. Right. So,
and I've read your book twice because I wanted to give it a chance. Your argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed.
Okay, so she really gives it to him in the next shot, which we're going to run in a second. But just, what do you make of the setup? Because Whoopi kicks it off with, you're too young to know anything. And we, back in the day, we never even taught black history, which is why we've overcorrected now to the point where race is dominating everything. So that's how they kick it off. The name of the book, by the way, is The End of Race Politics. The End of Race Politics by Coleman Hughes.
The subtitle, The Case for Colorblindness, The End of Race Politics, I think, right?
Well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do we make of just the scene setting by The View and how it kicked off?
I mean, where does one begin already? I mean, the fact that I love this thing. I read the book twice because I wanted to give it a chance, and she was like, "Yeah, this is a piece of shit. I'm going to read it one more time. Maybe I'll get it."
It's a lie.
I don't think you read it once.
She didn't read
seems
anything.
to have picked through, but to cut it's like that's what a dumb person says to sound like they're smart. Like, it's fundamentally flawed, and it's not. I mean, the premise itself is, I suppose people can say it's controversial, but it's not flawed. And then she's going to go on, and obviously you'll play that, but you see the hostility at the very beginning. And these are not people that are coming to this with an open mind and saying, well, here's a guy with a different set of views about this. Let's listen to him. The Whoopi Goldberg idea that, there's no timeline here. I don't know how old she is. But she says, we never learned this. I am not young. And in 7th grade, I had the entire year was on slavery and the Holocaust.
Yes, right.
This is not a new thing. Did we teach it in the best possible way? Absolutely not. Were things good back when? No, it's not. But to say that...
She's 68.
She's 68, okay. To say that without mentioning in the same breath any amount of progress, I mean, we've talked about this a lot on the show, the number of people who have said to me, who I've heard in public, who say that we've made no progress is astonishing to me. Yep. And that is kind of feeding into that narrative, which I find disingenuous.
If you watch, I don't think we have this in the clip, my team will tell me, but in the next clip, but Coleman goes on to say, we actually were doing very well on
2013,
our racism as a country. And it's pegged to 2013 when it started to go back down. He's like, it wasn't because of Obama and it wasn't because of Trump. He pegs it to, in large part, the iPhone and
Social
the
media.
nonstop feeds that we
Without a
get
doubt.
where I would say the left and their operatives are pushing like
Trayvon Martin, Mike
yeah,
Brown,
exactly. One black
yep.
man getting shot by a cop over and over and over. And then it's amplified by the Russians. But Coleman was saying, it's us. We've done it to ourselves.
Without a doubt.
Okay, but so Sunny's getting upset because one of the big problems with Coleman is he's black. And you can't dismiss
Please
him.
take that quote out of context and just repeat it.
It's just the worst.
Sunny would
That's the worst part
love.
about him, to be honest. But
She'd love to be like, okay, Karen, but she can't.
Yeah.
Right? She can't. So here's how it went from there.
Yeah.
Your argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's
Who am I
never
being
voted
used
for a Republican.
You said that you're a conservative.
No, no.
No, you did. You actually said that podcast that you did 2 weeks ago.
I said I was a conservative.
He's not.
Yes, you did.
I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling. I don't think there's any evidence I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here. And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about me.
I want to give you the opportunity to respond to
I appreciate
the criticism.
I appreciate it. There's no evidence that I've been co-opted by anyone.
I want to give you the opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to respond to
the criticism I just made.
and then pinned on other unnamed
But,
people.
In fact, it was an opportunity. I mean, well, like part of what makes this whole clip compelling and worth talking about is that she channeled a lot of the way that people interact with Coleman Hughes in the world. That is a style
true.
of argumentation that is really popular in the media and broadly on the left as well, of like, oh, you know, you're being co-opted by the right. You said something that the bad people agreed with and like retweeted or did this, and I thought that you were an ally, and now I guess you're not an ally or whatever. This is a style of argumentation, and it was great to see Coleman with his like heart rate down at 42, as it always is. Point out that this is a bad style of argumentation, and also she got straight to the charlatan part. Like,
She's like, I don't mean to offend you, but you're a pawn, a charlatan, and a conservative.
It's deplorable.
Which one's worse?
Yeah, it's one of the most incredible displays of condescension I have seen on network television. And I think that's saying a lot. And I can only imagine what the interactions were like there behind the scene. Coleman keeping his composure, all credit to him. But it is just such an embarrassing thing to see happen. And for him to, to be gracious, thank her for the opportunity to respond to these things. When I'm having a sophisticated argument about some important issue that has great gravity to me, the last thing that I want to do is burn time talking about this person's presumed motives and the way that they've been mind controlled into having their particular views. Talk about my ideas. Don't talk about me. Don't talk about my relationship with my kids or my wife if it isn't relevant to the discussion. Talk about the ideas. He did that. He stuck to the point. There is a reason why people like Sunny run away from the opportunity to actually debate the merits of very crystal clear, transparent proposals. Coleman is a dear friend of mine, but I would say this if it weren't the case. His book is really stellar. People should go out and grab it. And he and I have some pretty meaningful disagreements about certain things. Like colorblindness is not actually my jive, but I do think what he is doing in public is important and relevant and is helping to elevate our discussions about race and a range of other issues. So
you saw the bit at the end, though, right, Kmele, where he was saying, what I'm saying is, he also says, like, it's not about colorblind exactly. Like, I understand people do see color.
Yeah, that's the part I disagree with, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
But he then went on to say, like, I'm saying, I don't like the super emphasis on race. I want people to be judged by their character, by their values. And the audience did erupt in applause.
The audience is with him. And I think it tells you a great deal. The executives in the C-suite, the people who are hosting these shows, they may be complete fundamentalist ideologues on these issues. But regular people, everyday Americans, generally share the same sensibilities. They want to they believe in human dignity. They want to judge people on the basis of their individuality. And I think a lot of people have been pulled in unhealthy directions in recent years, but that is starting to snap back into the right place. But that can only happen if people are going to be honest and sincere and share their genuine perspectives on these issues. Cowardice is really just dominant these days.
When she weighs into what would appear to be something of an intellectual argument, she gets her ass handed to her immediately.
Yes.
She quotes Martin Luther King because, by the way, she knows King's
Bernice.
daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. Just so you know, I know her.
So I'm one up on you.
Three times.
I'm one up on you.
Yeah,
bizarre.
Bernice, who was texting me this morning, she doesn't
Meanwhile,
like
it's like because any knowledge you would have of MLK
Yes.
is erased thanks to the fact that I know the daughter.
Yes,
Like,
and you obviously
this is a
have
historical
read the
figure we can all
material
study.
because Coleman says, well, yeah, you're not quoting what happens right after that, what he says right after that. But, she says he's a conservative and then is fumbling. It was in a podcast and he's like, well, I'm not, okay?
And we went back and fact checked that. It's not true.
It's not true.
Somebody
It's not
else
true.
said it about him.
Of course,
Coleman did
yes.
not say that about
The
himself.
New York Times did that, and he was, you could have just looked, I think he tweeted about it, or other people were like, Coleman's not a conservative, and they said he was, but it's just on this issue.
He had tweeted that, like, if you want to call me a conservative, I'm not going to be bothered, but that's not how I call
That's
myself.
not how,
Right.
yeah, yes.
Aha! That's how the thinking is at the View.
But can we just say what she is saying in so many dumb, sort of convoluted ways? She's trying to call him an Uncle Tom.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what
right.
it is.
Without a doubt.
Why do white people on the right like you? And I remember one time I was in a green room at Fox in probably 2010 or something, and I was sitting, and I will tell the person's name because we don't really know each other, but I was sitting next to Jonah Goldberg, and this was in DC, and there was somebody on that was saying something crazy. And I said to Jonah, who again I don't know very well, I said, this I got to be on after this guy. It's kind of humiliating. And he just looked at me and he said, "You're only responsible for what you say. Don't worry about anybody else." And it was just, you would never remember this. It was a throwaway comment, and it stuck with me. I was like, no, I don't care who fucking retweets me. Sorry, I don't care who retweets me. I don't care who likes my stuff,
Yes.
provided I have the sort of firepower to say this is the argument that I'm making, and this is why it's true. To say that and say, well, why in co-opted? What does that mean?
So the
What
New
does it
York
mean?
Times, just to add to what you're saying, the New York Times had a headline about him, the young black conservative who grew up with and rejects DEI. I mean, it's wrong in the title of the
Yes.
article. They keep calling me a Republican in all of their articles. I'm not a Republican. I've been a registered independent for almost 20 years. I've actually asked them to correct it. They don't. It's just like they won't. They have their mind made up about who you are, and that's where they go with. Then this guy, Clay Kane, who's got some number of followers on X, retweets that New York Times headline and writes, Coleman Hughes calls for a colorblind society, but this New York Times headline says he's a black conservative. He's getting press because he is black, it's all in caps, that's why I'm saying it like that, calling for colorblindness. Why is his race mentioned? Shouldn't he denounce any mention of his race? Grift on. Like Coleman's got some obligation to run all over all of his
He's
press
not
mentions.
Kmele Foster, after all. Like, Kmele would be out there denouncing the whole thing.
But I know what Kmele would think about this, but I have a slightly different view on this. Like, I'm glad that it's being presented that he's a black person. And the reason is because there is a instinct, particularly on the left, that to be black is to think one way. And if you're going to highlight this, why are you highlighting it? It's because there's many ways of quote unquote being black, if you believe that is such a thing. Kmele does not. But if you're going to go there and say, well, everybody, and then the Trump polls, you see them inching up. People say, how is this happening? Well, you've been telling everybody on television, on radio, in books, in newspapers and magazines for years that to be black is one set of political beliefs, and that is not true.
Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, believes in equal opportunity and that the American dream starts with purpose. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With over 330 academic programs as of September, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.